The number one question I hear all the time, anytime somebody says that, oh, are you vegan? Or anyone is vegan, they say, but where do you get your protein? And my grandson quoted his father when he said, you can't get any protein if you're a vegan. So there are a lot of misconceptions about protein, but what is real, what is not real? We are fortunate because New York Times bestselling author Dr. Joel Fuhrman comes to the classroom to set us straight and tell us the science-based data that is out there so that we can make informed choices for ourselves. So you better get your paper and pencil because we're going to learn a lot and take lots of notes with Dr. Joel Fuhrman today.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am a certified life coach, a certified holistic cancer coach, and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show. If this is your first time, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, there are a lot of misconceptions about nutrition. And some of the things that we believe are true, can you imagine? Could they be false? The only way you're going to know that you don't know it and you don't know it correctly is if you're curious and listen to the research, do the research, and listen to Dr. Joel Fuhrman. I tell you what, Nutritarian lifestyle is the number one lifestyle that I embrace, and I am so grateful that Dr. Fuhrman is a friend of the classroom. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Dr. Joel Fuhrman is in the classroom. Thank you, Dr. Fuhrman. You could be anywhere in the world, but you chose to be here right now, so thank you.
You're welcome. Glad I'm here.
So the first question ever, where do you get your protein? And I was very thrilled that you wanted to talk about this today. So let's get started. Talk about, why is it so important that people believe that the only way you can get protein in your diet is only with animal products, and not only that, that if you do eat vegetables, that you have to eat so many vegetables that it won't even equate one piece of chicken.
Well, it's good we're talking about that because this is one of the most critically important findings of the scientific literature of the last decade,
Mhm.
particularly the last 5 years. What we've seen over the last five is accumulating evidence that as people eat more animal protein in a dose-dependent manner, so does it increases the risk of premature death.
Mhm.
So much so that people on keto diets who are eating more protein and less carbohydrate have the highest risk of premature death, defined as a death before the age of 70. So we're talking about, but in any case, the most interesting part of those studies is that increasing the amount of plant protein extends lifespan almost the same proportion. So more plant protein is better, more animal protein is worse. It's not one study, it's at least a dozen different studies corroborating each other, all really large scale studies following large groups of people, more than 100,000 people, for more than 20, 25 years, looking at the hard endpoints, causes of death and ages of death, and what they ate to earn those statistics. So it's really to earn the premature or the longer lifespan. Now, what's interesting both in the Epic Oxford study on vegans versus non-vegans in Europe, that the vegans in England had less protein in their diet and less calcium than people eating animal products. And the vegans had higher hip fracture rates, more osteoporosis and more hip fractures than the non-vegans. When we analyzed the diets that a lot of vegans were eating in England, they were getting about 15 grams of protein per 500 calories. So most of the diets were about 1,600 calories. People were getting about 45, 50 grams of protein. Whereas now, that's about, 15 grams per 500 calories came out to about 12% of the diet from protein. Whereas those on the meat-based diets, adding animal products, were getting about 16% of calories from animal protein in their diet, a little high amount. Now, a nutritarian diet gives you the diet I recommend. The nutritarian diet is a plant-based or vegan diet. It gives 25 grams of protein per 500 calories. That's because there's only five plant foods: fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, and intact whole grains. And the ones highest in protein are beans, greens, and from nuts and seeds. When you make a diet with it paying attention to including beans and greens and nuts and seeds regularly, and we do it so regularly that we're doing it 2 meals a day. We're having some beans with lunch and some beans with dinner. We have a salad, green vegetables for lunch. We're having broccoli and green vegetables for dinner. We're having a nut and seed based dressing for lunch. We're having a nut with a dip for dinner. So when you do that, the protein not only pumped up to 25 grams per 500 calories, but the calcium went from 500 milligrams to 1200 milligrams. And the phytochemicals and antioxidants, we were able to see why are plant proteins so strongly linked to longer life. It's not just the added protein, it's that they contain all these phytochemicals and other minerals and phytonutrients and antioxidants that protect against cancer. But the interesting part was here that the diet came out to be about 18% protein, the nutritarian diet. Remember, it was designed to be totally vegan, didn't include any animal products in it, had more protein than the people eating animal products. More protein diet than the plant-based diet. And one of the reasons the nutritarian diet had more protein, by the way, it had more calcium and the plant-based than the ones eating animal products too. So it went from actually at 25 grams of protein per 500 calories, it gave 84 grams of protein, about for 85 grams of protein for 1600 calories, and about 1200 milligrams of calcium, which I said already. But as people use nuts and seeds, you get the fats with protein, with anti-cancer lignans and polyphenols. When you pour oil on your food, like olive oil or canola oil, you see the conventional eaters get their fats from animal fats and oils, and us nutritarians get our fats from nuts and seeds and avocado. And nuts and seeds are high in protein, so you're getting your fats with protein. So when you put 200 calories of oil in your diet, you wasted 200 calories of your caloric pie. If you'd done a 1500 calorie diet, you just took 200 calories in with no protein. If I put those same 200 calories from nuts and seeds, I'd have gotten 10 grams of protein from that fat, from those calories. So the fact that the people on the animal product diets were eating so many wasted foods with no protein, white flour, sugar, oils, that the meat didn't even make up for all the protein you get from all these plant foods that we're eating, where every part of the diet adds the protein content, including the whole grains. But in any case, out of the five plant foods, fruits, vegetables, beans, nuts, and seeds, and intact whole grains, it's only fruit that's low in protein. The rest have adequate protein. Grains not as high as the other three, but they still has, especially quinoa and amaranth have a lot of protein. But in any case, the way you can make a plant-based diet too low in protein is by eating the majority of your calories from fruit. Once you get up to 70% or more calories from just eating fruit, the protein content of your diet can lower too low. And that protein is important because we find that people assimilate protein less as they age, and it can worsen or exacerbate muscle wasting, an immune system aging, or it's called immunosenescence, the aging of the immune system, because the IGF-1 can get too low from inadequate protein. And of course, your muscle and bones can shrink too much from inadequate protein. So we do recommend paying attention to protein. That's why we eat, edamame or soybeans and black beans and navy beans and lentils and pine nuts and, Mediterranean pine nuts and flax seeds and hemp seeds. That's why we're eating, and almonds. That's why we're eating these things that are high in protein to make sauces and dips that taste great.
What
So
about
yes,
someone, I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
What about someone who is overweight and they want to make the shift? I remember going to a Chipotle not too long ago, and the young lady was vegan. She said she was vegan, but she was morbidly obese. I don't know if she just became a vegan or she was vegan for a long time. When it comes to someone who is obese, maybe they're making a lifestyle change. And I think that her veganism was probably a lot of processed foods. That was just my judgment. I don't know. I don't have the facts. But how much nuts and seeds can someone who is overweight consume to balance out the protein? I don't know if I'm asking that question properly.
Yeah, let me have to deal with it because first of all, the reason people become overweight from eating bread, particularly white flour, and sweeteners and oils and salt. But we're talking here about the caloric rush. It means how many calories come through the bloodstream after you eat a meal. And when you put oil on your food, when you put nuts and seeds in your to get the fat, they come into the bloodstream so slowly they're digested or absorbed over a 3 hour period. So you're getting 1 or 2 calories in your blood at one time, 1 or 2 calories a minute, and your body could burn that for energy as they're coming in. When you put oil on your food, it comes into the bloodstream with such a rush at 40 to 50 calories a minute. The body has to turn on fat storage and store it as fat. But that's the fat in the blood after the meal is called the lipemic load. The glycemic load is the sugar in the blood after the meal from you eating white rice or bread, right? But it's the combination of the bread, the white rice, the sugar with the oil, adding up the glycemic load with the lipemic load, that rush of calories, that desensitizes dopamine centers and endorphins in the brain and makes you habituated to and desirous of extra calories. So people can't. So then, if you ask me what's the number one source of cravings and overeating, leading to this person getting overweight, I would say it's eating to to um, to magnify or strengthen the caloric rush by using oils and high glycemic carbohydrates. That combination, animal fats, bacon, pizza, burgers, whatever it is people eating, they've got the perfect, sandstorm to make for an obese, cancer-prone person. Now, talking about nuts and seeds, how slow they're going into the bloodstream, because they have many benefits with facilitating the absorption of the anti-cancer phytochemicals in the vegetables. You need some fat in that meal. But also there's so many anti-cancer benefits and proteins themselves within nuts and seeds. They're full of lignans and and bioflavonoids and polyphenols. They're so good in themselves and they facilitate the absorption of nutrients from other foods. So much so that people who eat nuts and seeds daily, even 1 ounce, usually are shown to have a 40% lower risk of heart disease and a 30% lower risk of cancer. Now, in the Seventh-day Adventist Health Study 2, which is one of the largest, highest credence study because there's very little confounding variables, it found that when you compared people eating nuts and seeds to not eating nuts and seeds, they found that as nuts and seeds increased in the diet, people lived longer. So if they divided the intake of nuts and seeds into 5 different quintiles, the lowest quintile, where they consumed less than half an ounce a day, had a shorter lifespan. And the highest quintile was consuming, on the average, more than 1.5 ounces a day. So it was actually a difference of 40% increased risk of heart attack rate when people went down to less than half an ounce a day compared to 1.5 ounces a day. So that's why we recommend that even when people are losing weight, they still eat 1.5 ounces a day of nuts and seeds. They still eat a half an ounce with each meal. That's minimum half an ounce with each meal. That's 2 tablespoons of ground seeds in your oats or your breakfast cereal. 1 tablespoon of ground flax seeds, 1 tablespoon of chia seeds or hemp seeds. That gives you 1/2 ounce of nuts and seeds. So that's about,
And
85.
how much protein is in that 1 tablespoon of seeds?
Well, it's about 4 grams of protein. It's about 85 calories, It's
85 calories, and
85
that's for
calories, 4 to 5 grams of protein,
how do you figure out what's the amount of protein that is right for me versus you, versus a football player that is, needing to be ready to endure all the pain that they endure? How do you figure that out?
You don't have to because the right amount of protein, I'm saying a nutritarian diet gives you about 25 grams of protein per 500 calories. 20 to 25 grams is plenty per 500 calories. When you're an avid athlete, a football player, a LeBron James at 6'9", or whatever of muscle, he needs more calories. He needs maybe three, and he's playing, person who's a physical laborer or a professional athlete needs more calories. So they need more protein in proportion to their increased caloric intake. But their protein needs go up in proportion to their caloric needs. So if they
Got
need
it.
more calories, they're getting double the protein. If they need 1.5 times the calories you need, they're getting 1.5 times the protein. So when Novak Djokovic, who was the number one tennis player in the world up until those last 2 years when Sinner and Alcaraz took the top 1 and 2 spots. But Novak Djokovic was one of the top tennis players of all times. He's a nutritarian. He follows a nutritarian diet. And he follows it because it extends his career. But when he was young, he didn't have the stamina to compete at the world level. And by moving to a nutritarian diet, he's got more stamina and more to last the lengthy matches. But in any case, the point I'm bringing up is that he needs more protein than I'm eating because he's burning more calories and he's playing tennis and exercising much more. But I only eat like, 1,600 calories a day, and he's eating, 3,500 calories a day. He's eating double the calories I'm eating, but he's getting double the protein from the same diet. He's just eating more food. He's eating four
It
times a
makes
day,
sense.
three
Yeah,
times.
it makes sense.
You know,
Why do you think, do you think this is a myth from the cattle company or the, you know, animal product companies to say that this is the only way? Because I remember there was a campaign, gosh, when my kids were little, milk does the body good. You know, we see all these different campaigns, and unfortunately, a lot of people aren't educated in nutrition. We're not given the educational, you know, they don't have the privilege of sitting with you, you
there,
know, for all
there
these
are
years.
hundreds of different plant foods, right, that are good for us. Hundreds. We should be having hundreds of different foods in our diet.
Mhm.
Flax seeds, pine nuts, broccoli, collard greens, bok choy. There's not each one of these vegetables and nuts doesn't have their own billion-dollar advertising budget. And so they don't really put much into promoting their products. There's $1 billion spent, not a million, billions spent by the animal agriculture industry, the meat and dairy and egg industry spends billions of dollars to misinform and miseducate and advertise their products to the American consumer. And it works. People are believe in these myths and believe in what this false bill of goods they've been sold. But if you had $1 billion to spend on promoting broccoli, you'd get people believing that you can't live without that broccoli. But unfortunately, and then they get government subsidies. Then because they have a large amount of money and because they've infiltrated the political system in America with lobbyists and with donations to politicians and supporting their campaigns, they're able to get laws passed favorable to them to give them government subsidies. So you have that, so the cost of meat might be double what it is now. The cost of milk might even be triple, might be unaffordable. But
Mhm.
so our tax dollars are paying to keep animal products less expensive and to promote their use. Um, so it's difficult because we know that those foods destroy the environment, increase global warming and are responsible for at least 30% of the heating of the earth, of climate change, and dumping of waste into our waterways. But in any case, it causing a whole bunch of human tragedy, because of um, the miseducation and misinformation that is really advertising. So people are brainwashed as young children. What if I told everybody listening, I said, look, let's change your religion. The religion that you were raised with is the wrong religion. My religion is the right religion. I want you all to change over. People have such a strong attraction for what they're taught as children and the indoctrination they get into their faith, into their belief system about food, into what they learn about eating from their parents when they're young. And it's very difficult to change people's viewpoints when their brain's been wired to believe certain things when they're young. That's why there's 100 different religions, and every person who's raised by a certain person believes in what their parents taught them. So it's the same thing. It's very hard to restructure a person's belief systems that have been wired into the brain for so many decades.
Yeah, but I'm talking about nutritionists. These are people that go to school to learn about nutrition, and they're talking about a high protein diet with animals. And so, how do we stop that? I mean, because they're getting educated by, you know, again, is that a lie? Are these people that are saying, because I know of a person who has a doctorate in nutrition and they're pushing Weight Watchers and they're pushing all these things. And I'm thinking, at what point do we look at the facts and are the facts being distorted to move one product over the other?
Well, that's right. When I'm talking about the billions of dollars of advertising, it's just like the drug industry spends a huge amount of money advertising directly to the physicians. They pay physicians, they bribe physicians, they support their conferences, they support their vacations, and they influence the way doctors utilize their drugs. It's the same thing that the food industry has done with dietitians. And I remember
Wow.
I was once this school principal wrote an article about her recovery from diabetes using my program, where her diabetes went away. So the American Diabetic Association called me up and wanted me to write an article for their magazine. So I wrote an article for the magazine giving 4 case histories of 4 people that reversed their diabetes, and they sent me a check for $700. This must have been 20 years ago or 25 years ago. They gave me 25 years ago, I think it was. So it was only $700. But so anyway, so they called me back and said, can you make the article so that people are just improving their diabetic control? They can't get rid of their diabetes because the magazine supported by
No
Eli
way.
Lilly, who makes drugs for insulin. We don't want to take them off all their drugs. So I
Wow.
couldn't do that. So I said, I'll just rip up the check. I'm not going to send an article if you're going to try to make me change it or weaken. It's the reality of what happens is people get rid of their diabetes. But it's the same way. Um, the money does talk, and it makes it difficult to change society. Now you have the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, which is a group of physicians who use diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep, and those physicians review the scientific literature. And so I'd say the dietitians are very much behind because their schooling is still about a decade behind.
Mm.
Where the books, who writes the books, where they came from, who supported them, they're still at least a decade behind. And
Wow.
so that it's more, but in any case, um, that's why it's so important to educate the public directly, because the conventional view on nutrition isn't what the literature shows. It's what you're kind of like,
Amazing.
what you're paid to want to tell people.
I used to say, you just can't argue facts,
Right.
but now you can. Now we don't even know what the facts are. It's very confusing for a regular person, like me or someone else that's listening today. It's like relearning a new language or learning a new language and saying, okay, this is the language that is the right language for me. And so it's frustrating at times because it's these lies have infiltrated the medical practices. These lies have infiltrated our education. And so I'm grateful that you're
Right.
bringing this
Yeah,
up.
medical care is mostly,
Sick
you could
care.
say, it's medical care is mostly things that have not been, are not evidence-based.
Hmm.
Medical care is mostly not evidence-based. So we're talking about, and when they are evidence-based, it's comparing one drug to another or
Hmm.
one drug to nothing. It's never comparing a drug to an excellent diet where the disease goes away, you don't need the drug. They never do that. But
No,
in any case, we are
no.
seeing more evidence. In my book, Eat for Life, I have 2,000 medical references. The amount of data that's now published documenting the benefits of a healthy diet to really extend human lifespan and protect against high blood pressure, diabetes, autoimmune conditions, and cancers is just remarkable. We're getting we get everybody has been brainwashed by the medical business, by the business side of medicine. Look
Mm,
at women running to get mammograms,
mm,
radiate compressing and radiating their breast, putting their breast to get radiation, thinking that that is the answer to extend their lifespan and to prevent them from getting breast cancer. They've literally been, again, like you use scam, brainwashed, whatever word you use, but they've been educated and informed with something that socially penetrates the society. So it develops a belief system that becomes impenetrable. You can't
mm,
shake that out of a person. They'll hear me say mammograms and they'll say, oh, this person's crazy. Mammograms have been proven to extend human lifespan. Well, no, that's not true. When
mhm,
we look at populations that have been screened with mammograms for decades, versus the same population. For example, one major study in Sweden, half the population was screened, half the population wasn't screened. There were more breast cancers detected in the screened population, but no change in lifespan of the two groups at all, because the screened populations leads to more detection, but more treatment, and the treatment causes more death, and the treatment for breast cancer doesn't necessarily have a significant effect extending human lifespan. I said that very quickly, but let me say that one more time. Making 2 points here. Number one, for most breast cancers, which are garden variety, postmenopausal, estrogen positive breast cancers, either invasive lobular carcinoma or invasive ductal carcinoma, chemotherapy is not shown to have a significant effect at extending chemotherapy. Medical intervention is not shown to have a significant effect in extending lifespan, whether it's metastasized or not. It's not. Anti-estrogens have, but not chemotherapy. Now, there is benefits to chemotherapy with aggressive premenopausal early stage breast cancers that are more aggressive, that are growing more rapidly. Okay, number one, so let's first agree that what doctors do with the treatment for breast cancer, for most breast cancers, has little effect on overall outcome, but people think they're better. They think the doctor helped them. They cut the breast out. They took the breasts off. They took the tumor out, gave them chemo, and the person thinks they're cured. But 5 or 10 years later, something comes back, and it would have been the same if they had the breast taken out without had the chemo. It has no effect on the overall lifespan, or no significant effect. Now, the people getting mammograms, what women aren't told is that when doctors see an abnormality, and by the way, if there's 1 in 50 chance of that, whatever they're looking at, the little smudge on a mammogram, there's 1 in 50 chance of it being something that could be suspicious to cancer. The radiologist is going to protect themselves and refer you for further testing that leads to a biopsy. So even if it's 49 out of 1 chance of being benign, they're going to send you for further testing. So now you're afraid. It's just nothing that was really definitely cancer, just an infinitesimally small amount of chance. Then you're getting more testing and you're going for a biopsy. Now, once you got the biopsy, people think the biopsy said I had cancer. They don't realize that 30% of the biopsies are wrong. 30% of the
That's
pathology
amazing.
they cannot detect cancer on a biopsy because they can if it's definitely an invasive cancer, but the majority of cancers are in some gray area. And just like the radiologist has to protect themselves to make sure they don't miss anything, the pathologist has to protect themselves to make sure they don't miss anything. So it's called overdiagnosis. They don't want to call something benign when it could have been cancer. So in
Hmm.
order not to miss any cancers, they have to have 30% of diagnosed cancers that are never would have killed a person, never would have spread or caused any interference with lifespan. So now you have 300 million women walking around thinking they have breast cancer with the fear, and they never even had cancer, but now they're treated with chemotherapy and radiation. These women who never had a cancer, 30% of the people diagnosed with breast
It's
cancer never had a
it's
cancer.
it's
It's
criminal.
mind-boggling, right?
It's
It's mind-boggling.
criminal. It is
Right.
criminal, not just
Mind-boggling.
mind-boggling, it's criminal.
Yeah. So
That
now they're
what's
getting
happening.
chemotherapy, and chemotherapy causes other cancers
Correct.
and causes increased doubles the risk of heart attacks from getting the chemo. Now they took the woman now who never had anything wrong with her, who had an abnormal mass, a fibroadenoma, something that maybe looked a little like cancer, diagnosed with cancer, and now shortened her lifespan with treatment, right? Because so what and all the stress involved, and now she's a cancer patient the rest of her life. But these people who are the cancer patients, they think, oh, the doctor saved my life. I would have been dead, but he found my cancer early, and now I'm fine. No, you never had cancer. You never had a cancer. So, that's why mammograms create this whole vicious problem. Because even though there is an advantage to catching an early stage cancer early when it's a smaller, when it's an aggressive type premenopausal cancer that really is going to be invasive. The people that are helped from mammogram, and some people are helped by catching some things early, but the number that are helped are offset by more people that are hurt. So even though one person could have been helped by mammogram, and not to disagree with or deny the fact that they were helped, but more people an equal number or a greater number have been hurt by that. You know.
Like I said, it's criminal. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about what I do, is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And, it is amazing how much, whenever we have classes like this, how this is what's considered misinformation. When in fact, if people were just to do their own research, become their own MDs, medical detectives, and say, okay, I want to prove him wrong, and start the journey on trying to prove you wrong, and then finding out with the data that is out
The
there.
beauty is you can use ChatGPT. People can check things on ChatGPT
Yeah,
today.
but ChatGPT can be wrong too.
Yeah, but
I've
usually it's
corrected
right.
ChatGPT many
I
times.
know. Usually it's right. If you put into ChatGPT, how much increased lifespan does a woman with common breast cancer get from eating chemotherapy? It'll give you the answer, no significant increase in lifespan. You know what I mean? At least
Yeah.
you get those kind of things. So how much longer do groups that get mammogram live compared to groups that are not screened? And it'll give you the right answer. The Cochrane analysis looked at every study done in the world and analyzed them and showed no differences.
Yeah.
But in any case, what I'm saying is where the difference does show a difference is with nutritional excellence.
Hmm.
And that's where we can stop cancer in its tracks, stop you from getting cancer. This is where we know the causes of cancer and why we focus on a nutritarian diet so we can truly protect ourselves, and why we use non-radiation QT imaging. I have this new equipment we have in our office here called a QT imaging machine,
Yeah.
which does which is which is 240 cameras that circumnavigate the breast while the breast is being dangled in a warm water bath. So there's no compression, but it's based on acoustical ultrasound,
Hmm.
and it's about, I think it's 200,000 more pixels or more data points than a mammogram gives you. It gives you much more accurate reading. It's so accurate, and the AI construction of a suspicious looking mass on the read is so incredibly accurate and measured by the computer that you can actually see a month or two if that suspicious mass is growing fast, growing slowly, or not growing at all.
Hmm.
So it's called the doubling time. Now, cancers all have a double, breast cancers have a doubling time of around 120 days. They double.
Okay.
But we know that if the doubling time is less than 200 days, it's probably risky. It might be something that should be investigated. But what if you do see a mass? Now, the chance of being cancer could have been 1 in 10, 1 in 50, or 1 in 100, right? And now, instead of biopsying it, where 30% of those are going to come back cancer when they're not cancer, you just repeat the scan and you get the volumetric, and you see the doubling time is that it's not growing, or it's growing at less than a 400-day doubling time. Then you know this is not an aggressive mass that's growing fast enough to be a cancer, and the person never needed the biopsy. What I'm saying is a QT imaging machine can diagnose and more effective than a pathologist can, and stop people from needing these not saying not even about breast biopsies and further testing. Can set the person at ease and stop all these women with false diagnoses. Now, I'm not even saying that I'm saying with no screening, they're better off. But if they are going to do screening, person is really into screening, or they're not taking great care of their health and they want to at
Yeah.
least do a screening that's not dangerous, and at least do a screening that's not going to lead to a false. What's wrong with um, the
Mammogram.
MRIs with the,
Hmm. Oh,
gadolinium, which is going to put toxins in your body, or the
right.
radiation or the ultrasounds. They overdiagnose. The ultrasounds and the MRIs get more overdiagnosed. They make things look abnormal that are nothing wrong with. So they really don't have the ability to they overdiagnose and they misdiagnose,
Yeah.
right?
It's just mind-boggling that 30% of cancers are misdiagnosed. They to save the radiologist's bottom, they say it's cancer before they say it's not cancer. And I can understand that, be safe, but I'm sorry. But it's that fear, that planted seed of fear that causes the patient to go into this, what I call, no disrespect, a white coat trance, where they hear and obey. And whenever we give that power away, that's when we get in trouble. So we need to take our
It
power
changes the
back.
whole trajectory of their life. This thing with mammograms and misdiagnoses and overdiagnoses and fake diagnoses, and then treatments that don't work, and everybody's doing it. It's the same thing. Why are people, I talked about earlier about people where they just follow along with the whatever doctors tell them. They have this religious type belief in modern medicine because they're indoctrinated into this religion of modern medicine when they're little kids, right? So
Yeah.
just believe everything doctors say, everything doctors tell you to do, and you think they're saving your life, right? You
Hmm.
think the doctors are
Yeah.
saving, and women bear the brunt of it. Women
Yes.
bear the brunt of it in society. Women take all the brunt of it. Of course, men, we know that prostate cancer, chemo doesn't work for prostate cancer either, but at least most doctors treating males honestly tell them the chemo doesn't work. You're better off, you might as well just do nothing and just watch it. Or, at least doctors are not told you need chemo when it doesn't work. Women are told they need chemo when it doesn't work. You know what I mean?
Dr. Fuhrman, with the QT scan that you have at your clinic, um, can a man check their prostate? If you have women putting their breasts in, can men check, testicular
And then dangle their
testicular
private
cancer?
parts into the water.
So I'm going with the testicular cancer here. Can you scan other parts of your body?
No, it's just made
Just
for
for
women's
breasts.
breasts.
It's a good image though. Okay, so I want to go back to so first of all, I just want all of you to know that Dr. Fuhrman We did a class on the QT scan and the other scans that he has in his clinic. His daughter is a naturopathic doctor, and they're in the process of getting that all those scans there. I love it. I love the fact that you're doing that. So you could check out the class. You could find it under in the YouTube channel or at whenyouneedafriend.com. And if you go to Dr. Fuhrman's playlist, it'll be in there. It's a picture of it's the one that gives you the oxygen. What's the name of it? The oxygen and the infrared lighting. Which
That's
one is
the
it?
immortal chamber. Yeah.
Yes,
They can just go to it's called Longevity RX, and they can at drfurman.com we have a tab that says Longevity RX. You just click it, it goes right to that website. Because
perfect.
the website is Dr. Longevity RX, .dr, because we couldn't get Longevity RX URL. But in any case, it's easy to find it. But yeah,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
yeah, we have the
I
immortal
love.
chamber. The
Oh, go
immortal
ahead.
chamber is cool because 1/2 hour Senate, 1/2 hour session, you're getting nasal hydrogen, inhaled hydrogen, which is more effective than drinking hydrogen water. And then you're
Yes.
getting complete red light therapy all over your back, sandwiched into your whole body. And you're getting PEM, electromagnetic therapy, acoustical sound therapy, and vibrational therapy.
It's amazing.
It's all in one. It's all in one, such beautiful modern piece of equipment does everything simultaneously.
For those of you who love state of the art, latest and greatest, go to Dr. Furman's clinic. I mean,
Yeah, they're gonna
it would
the
be.
whole country will fly to San Diego, be waiting at our front door.
I think so. I think so. Okay, so I have a question for you regarding protein. I want to go back to the protein. I remember a while back we did a warning to vegans that were eating a certain way. They were eating vegan foods, but they also needed to add D and omega 3s. And you were saying there's a warning because people that are vegan can get dementia. So let's talk about people that are nutritarian, well, not nutritarian, but maybe they're vegan. Are there any side effects other than for or dangers or warnings for people that are vegans with protein?
Well, the Seventh-day Adventist Health Study 2, Adventist Health Study 2, which the reason why it's such a historical and important study is that a lot of the Adventists are not drinking, they're exercising, they're eating healthfully, and a lot of them are vegans and some of them are not vegans. So we can compare that as mostly the variable we're looking at is whether they eat animal products or not. But they're otherwise eating healthy, not usually junk. They're less likely to be eating junk food, and there's less co-family variables. It's a very important study that's been going on for almost 30 years now.
Hmm.
It showed that comparing vegans to the vegans compared to the non-vegans, the vegans had less cancer and less heart attacks. But the non-vegans had 37, but the vegans had 37% more Parkinson's disease, 12% more strokes, and excuse me, 17% more strokes and 12% more dementia. All right. So the brain, strokes, dementia, and Parkinson's can be damaged by being on a vegan diet because we've learned now, we have other studies that are explaining why, is that low levels of omega-3 fats, EPA and DHA, interfere with the body's ability to clear out neurotoxins like rotenone and paraquat that can cause Parkinson's disease. So your body, the DHA deficiency impairs the body's ability to remove neurotoxins. So when you eat animal products, particularly seafood, lizards, whatever it is you're eating, the exposure to those fatty acids can show a benefit. And there's further studies in the looking at personalized in prescribing to personalized measurement and treating of each individual person to optimize their omega-3 index is most effective at extending human lifespan and preventing neurologic deficits in later life. So that's why we supplement with omega-3 DEP, an algae-based EPA and DHA. It's an algae-based substance that is the same as fish oil, but it's cleaner and we keep it refrigerated so it's no rancid, no contaminants.
Hmm.
We supplement the diet, but what we're saying is that we're encouraging people to know their omega-3 index, to check their blood so they know whether they need the supplement, and if they need the supplement, how much to take. Because it's optimizing your omega-3 index to a level above 6 that was shown to have the strongest effect on lifespan, and the most protection on brain shrinkage with aging. So you want to get the level up there. So some people need to take 4 times as much as some other person may need. So it's
Because of absorption.
personalizing the
Yeah.
supplementation to their individual needs, which is very, so basically, so the DHA deficiency is accounting for the higher risk of Parkinson's and the higher risk of dementia, shrinkage of the brain with aging. But salt plays a role too, because the vegan is more sensitive to the damaging effect of salt. That's for the reason why there's an increased risk of strokes in vegans.
Wow.
Because, because we have two types of strokes. We have the embolic or ischemic stroke, which is caused by a clot. That's like a heart attack of the brain. And then you have a hemorrhagic stroke, which is bleeding. That's a bleeding. It's not a clot. It's the opposite of a clot. It's like you take aspirin to prevent a heart attack, you're increasing risk of a hemorrhagic stroke. That's the problem. You're taking blood thinners with atrial fibrillation to prevent a clot in your heart, but the blood thinners cause you to have a hemorrhagic stroke, cause you to bleed in the brain, it kills you.
Mm.
That's why we have 10 times the amount of hemorrhagic strokes in Asian countries because they eat so much salt. And of course, the cholesterol is lower. What I'm saying right now is that a higher cholesterol increases your risk of heart attack and embolic or ischemic stroke, but a higher cholesterol is protective against a hemorrhagic stroke because the thickening of the basement membrane from higher cholesterol levels can have an effect to diminish the ability or the tendency towards rupture of the membrane and hemorrhage from salt use. Because salt use, by the way, is linked to the development of tau proteins leading to Alzheimer's disease, but salt use also, over the decades of using salt on your food, causes microvascular hemorrhaging that gradually eats away and weakens the endothelial lining of blood vessels. And gradually these blood vessels become more friable, more thin. And now you're 85 years old and you have a stroke and you die of a stroke.
Are you talking about table salt or all kinds of salt?
All kinds of salt, even,
Really?
even under the table salt. That was a joke.
I got it. I got it. I get you. I get you. I see you. I get you. Hey, listen, if you can laugh at my testicular image there with the QT imaging, I get it. So okay, so all because I understood that the salts that are like sea salt or from the was it the what is it, the Celtic salt or that they
Maybe
have.
from the rock at Gibraltar, maybe the back of the moon, or the marijuana, or the deepest trench in the bottom of the ocean. Maybe there's some salt that's not dangerous. But
So all salts, but this is what I'm saying. There's so much misinformation out there, Dr. Fuhrman, that if even if I had you on my show every day of the week, there would still be so much we don't know, we don't know. Because every time I'm thinking, okay, there are so many doctors that are saying, oh, some people don't absorb salt. They need more salt in their body. So are you talking about there's when people are eating processed foods, there's a lot of sodium, there's a lot of salt in their food. But when somebody's eating like raw vegan or they're eating raw vegetables in the nutritarian lifestyle, the vegetables themselves have enough salt in there, right? You don't need to salt that.
that's correct. I mean, the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association published, these giant papers and saying that people who have heart disease should cut their sodium down to less than 1,500 milligrams a day because otherwise they're at higher risk of death. Now that is just inherently, that's the stupidest thing you've ever heard of. Because why would you tell a person after they have heart disease to cut back on salt? If they believe that it's bad to have salt in a person with heart disease, then it would have been right never to hate the salt to begin with since they were children. You wouldn't wait till you don't wait till a person gets lung cancer, tell them to quit smoking. You don't wait till a person gets heart disease, tell them to come out the salt. And if you read their 30-page paper or 60-page paper, it'll go into the fact that below 1,000 milligrams is the most protective. The only reason they said 1,500 is that they felt the population wouldn't adhere to 1,500. They thought 1,000 was people would not comply with it, so they just made it as 1,500 because most Americans are reading 3,000. So they admitted right in there that the risk of cardiovascular death decreases as a person cuts their sodium down to 1,000 or less. And
Yeah.
food gives us, the right amount, about, between 600 and 8,000 and 9,000 based on how many calories you eat. But you said earlier, your doctor says there are some people that need sodium, and that's true. Because I've been doing this for so many decades, taking care of tens of thousands of people,
Mhm.
doing this and putting them on low salt diets. And they're right, about 1 in 1,000 people, or maybe 1 in 500, but probably closer to 1 in 1,000 people. When you cut out all the sodium, They've been so used to a high sodium diet, they're excreting so much, they get too hypovolemic. So we give them a little bit of sodium, like a couple of hundred extra with each meal. So yes, there's about 1 in 500 to 1 in 1,000 person that you can't cut the salt down that radically because the body doesn't accommodate to it when they've been eating salt for so long. But most normal people, the vast majority of people, their kidney will accommodate the low salt intake by holding on to salt, and their sweat will stop pushing out sodium, and their body level of sodium will normalize with a lower sodium intake. It's called homeostasis. The body adjusts its
Wow.
excretion of sodium to keep the sodium level in the blood the same, whether you have a high intake or a low
Interesting.
intake. Now, when you are accommodated, like I am, to a very low sodium intake, my sweat has no salt in it. My urine has no salt. My body's holding on to salt. That's why I played tennis this morning, right? And I sweated a lot today. But I'm not gonna get a cramp in my leg. I don't have to rehydrate with electrolytes. My sweat isn't putting out electrolytes.
Wow,
If you
that's
have a high
awesome.
salt diet and you're putting out a lot of sodium in your sweat, you're not just losing sodium, you're losing other minerals. The body can't remove sodium in an isolated way. It has to remove carb by carb and potassium, magnesium, and other minerals with it. So this person who's sweating out all the extra sodium they're consuming is always borderline mineral deficient. A little extra running and sweating in the heat, and they're going to be even more mineral deficient.
Wow.
Nutritarians
That
aren't
makes
losing.
sense.
We're holding on to it.
That makes so much sense. Well, I want to take a little break because we've got like 10 minutes left. I want to remind all of
Yeah.
you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com and become a subscriber, subscribe to the websites. Go to my like I said, whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we learn information that is science-based, and I am excited that we get to have Dr. Fuhrman share all his wisdom and knowledge. And like I said, check it out. Research it. Don't just dismiss it and say, oh, well, he's the only one that's saying that. Not true. Not true. There's research in there. And so you get to be your own MD, become your own medical detective. Like I said, go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe to the website, subscribe to my social media channels, like and follow
Yeah.
me, and share the information with your friends, the people that this video, this could be a life-changing video, a life, altering video for anyone in your family. It's information that gives us free choice. When you learn new truths, you can make informed choices that will bless your body. I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. We're going to be doing a webinar. The information is below. We're going to be talking about rewriting our story to help with our mindset, our spirit, mind, and body, to be in alignment so that 2026 will be exactly how you would like for it to be. So on December 2nd, it's a Tuesday from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to come together to help rewrite the story of trauma, story of, what you want for your future, the story of nutrition. We've got to relearn these truths so that we can start making the right choices for ourselves. So I want to encourage you that if you want to join, click the link below. It'll take you to the donation page. If you register before Sunday, before Thanksgiving, you'll get an extra $25 off. So go check it out. We'll probably do a page, but we're just making it a quick thing for Tuesday, December 2nd. So join us there. Check out all our Lilly approved products. Check out all the events that we're doing. And I am just so excited that the holidays are upon us. With this information, we can start making the best decisions for us. Dr. Fuhrman, I'm always so grateful when you come on, and and all these years, since 2015, can honestly tell you that I learn something new every time we come together. And it is something that I research, something that I verify, and I also test on my body. And so I am just so grateful to you. So thank you very much. And you guys could go to drfuhrman.com, go to drfuhrman.com to learn more, especially about the QT imaging and all the other imagings that are there that are natural and healthy to your body. I love that new side of you, Dr. Fuhrman, the naturopathic and natural, which is something that I've focused on for such a long time. Now, when it comes to people that are making decisions for themselves and for their health, as we're going into the holidays, because it's going to happen. People are going to celebrate. They're going to celebrate in a way that is not becoming their body? What are some of the tips that you can tell so that they could still have a good time and not feel like they're missing out on anything, which is such a lie. You know, that we're missing out if we don't drink, if we don't have the fried foods and the, just abuse our bodies during this time. What do you have to say to them?
Well, number one, most deaths occur around holiday times. That's when people have about heart attacks because binging leads to heart attacks, you know.
Mm.
And number two is that it's a knowledge, it's hard between now and the holidays. I don't know how much people are going to learn, but it's a learning curve to learn how to make great tasting recipes, healthy recipes, taste great, and to make delicious holiday dress. You know, we're making a mushroom stroganoff today. You know, we made a tofu lasagna the other day. I mean, we have great tasting food. It just happens to be healthy, you know. But in any case, um, I think people, and desserts, you can make the greatest ice creams out of bananas with real vanilla bean powder with a handful of nuts milk mixed in a high-powered blender. There's a million ways we can make cream sauces, custards, desserts. I just made a cranberry jello, like a cranberry jello with cranberries, dates, cinnamon, and agar. Agar is the secret ingredient. You have to use it. I use the agar flakes, a tablespoon for every 3.5 to 4 cups of liquid. So I made it's like 12 cups. I put like 3 heaping tablespoons of agar flakes in there. First, you dissolve the agar flakes in the warm water. I always like boil the water a little bit, shut the boiled water off and dissolve them. And I poured it into the mix because the agar flakes hardened to like a jello consistency to make the cranberry, sauce. But anyway, yeah, it's fun to make holidays to share your best recipes and your most favorite dishes with your friends and family. But still, don't overeat and eat within your caloric window and learn what it means to be a nutritarian. To feel nothing feels as good as feeling good. Not eating a big meal, not stuffing your belly, not 1 minute of the taste. Nothing it feels as good as being not being sick all night and not having reflux and not being bloated and gassy and feeling heavy. And it's just who wants to, the people are just addicted, heavily addicted to food. And there's all these things that I say that are kind of not supported by conventional thought. Number one, folic acid causes childhood cancer, and people what think fatigue is hunger. They don't they mistakenly the withdrawal symptom from the bad diet is hunger. There's a lot of things we talk about here that are used in the scientific literature by people reading my research. Other researchers utilize this work, but the general public still is not aware of it. That there's so many things that they think that are really incorrect or not, not
Yeah, not that you need any of my help because you do a really good job at promoting yourself, but I'm just so grateful that you take the time to come on. And I mean, you did such a great job with the I Am the Solution Natural Health Summit for Cancer and Autoimmune Disease. Everybody just loved you. They wanted more Dr. Fuhrman. And so I'm just so grateful how you have, taken us under your wing and you're so supportive. I really do appreciate it. And I just want to announce Dr. Fuhrman will be my first class of the year for 2026. I'm just excited about that as well. So Dr. Fuhrman, when it comes to um, you know, someone who is listening today that I want to learn about the nutritarian lifestyle, but I don't want to be a vegan. What can you say about the limitations of animal products, just to start, so that they can dip their toe and what it would be like to lessen the amount of animal products that they're having?
Yeah, we usually say they start with cutting back because the average American eats 33%, a third of their diet comes from animal product food. So we try to get them to cut that back to 10%. So there'd be 90% of unrefined plant food. Don't forget that the average American eats 60% of the diet from processed foods.
Mm.
That's harder to cut back for most people. Reducing your animal products from 30 to 10% isn't as hard. You have a little piece of animal to flavor a dish. The hard part is getting rid of the oil and the salt and the white flour and the bread and the pizza and the French fries and the junk food and the chips and the crackers. That's even more difficult for people, you know. So yeah, if you want to do a little bit of animal products and get rid of all the other junk you're eating, that's the first step, obviously, if you're so into that. And then we see that there's an improvement in lifespan when people cut back on animal products from 30% to 20% to 25% to 15 to 10%. Below 5%, it's not evident. There's no clear evidence-based data to show that once you go below 5% of animal products, going to zero is not necessarily going to extend lifespan. It may, but we don't have that data clear enough yet. You know what I mean? But it's not that important. The important is get learn the whole what we're talking about here. Make the real change you need. And don't forget, I'm taking care of a lot of people who are very sickly and they're food addicts and they're overweight. So I need them to go 100% because if we give them 5%, it keeps their they keep desiring the things they shouldn't be eating. And they have their sicknesses, they can't afford to do 5 or 10% of something that's not healthy. So even though I might suggest you're a young person, they're healthy, they're eating healthy, sure, they don't have to be 100%. But the most people I'm taking care of who are already sick and overweight with serious problems, I do want them to be 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good thing. And we've done a lot of classes on what is it like to be a nutritarian. So check those classes out. Dr. Fuhrman has been very generous with his information, very generous with his time. And so take advantage of them. And of course, you can go to drfuhrman.com. Dr. Fuhrman has where you can join Dr. Fuhrman. Can you share about how they can join your group and get information from you and other people that are in that group?
Right. On the website, they can join the membership where they can ask me questions. So I can literally become their medical advisor on a long-term basis. They can post questions every day and I can help guide them on any problems they're having. But within the next month, I'm launching a Dr. Fuhrman AI, which is
Ooh.
on the website, which means you don't have to join at the price to get me to ask the questions because that's a little more expensive. They can join at a low price and still get the fake Dr. Fuhrman to answer all the questions. If they want the real me, they have to pay a little more. But the fake Dr. Fuhrman does pretty good because the AI computer Dr. Fuhrman now has got all my lectures, all my books, all my podcasts. I've answered 20,000. It's got all
Wow.
those questions in there. It's got everything I've ever spoken, said in my life. So it's all in there. It's
Amazing.
amazing way the AI can give you an answer just like it's me, you know? So
So do
yeah,
we call it chat DRF?
I don't know what we're going to call it yet. I
But DRF, Dr. Fuhrman, DRF, chat DRF.
think it's might be AI Dr. Fuhrman. I think maybe
Oh,
AI Dr.
well,
Fuhrman, yeah.
I was trying to make it like Chat GPT, Chat DRF, Hey, I only charge 20% of my ideas.
Yeah.
Dr. Fuhrman, you are amazing. I am so grateful to you. It's so easy to fall back into our old patterns and our old ways. And I love how you keep us honest with integrity and all your information that you share with that same honesty and integrity that we receive it from. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you so much.
And I want to wish you a happy holiday. So enjoy. I'm sure that the Nutritarian Thanksgiving is just going to be amazing. So thank you so much for coming on. And for those of you that are tuning in, there's so much we don't know. Check out drfuhrman.com and start your journey to becoming a nutritarian as well. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Jill Fuhrman wishing you love, peace, joy, and an expected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.